It was a dark and stormy night, the kind of night that made you want to curl up in bed with a good book and a hot cup of tea. But for Sarah, there was no rest to be found. She had been having strange dreams lately, dreams that seemed all too real and left her feeling uneasy and on edge. She tried to shake off the feeling as she made her way down the empty streets, her umbrella providing little protection against the driving rain. She had always hated walking home alone at night, and tonight was no exception. The wind howled through the streets, shaking the trees and causing her to jump at every little noise. Just as she was about to turn onto her street, she heard a voice calling out to her. It was soft and barely audible over the sound of the storm, but she could swear it was saying her name. She turned to see who it was, but there was no one there. She must be imagining things, she told herself, but the hairs on the back of her neck stood up all the same. She quickened her pace, her heart racing in her chest. She was almost home now, just a few more steps and she would be safe inside. But as she fumbled with her keys, the voice called out to her again, this time louder and more insistent. She spun around, trying to find the source of the voice, but all she saw was darkness. Finally, she managed to unlock the door and stumble inside, slamming it shut behind her and leaning against it, panting and shaking. It was only then that she noticed the note on the table, written in a bold, flowing script that she didn't recognize. Meet me in the old abandoned house on the edge of town. If you value your life, you won't tell a soul. Sarah's heart skipped a beat as she read the words. She had always avoided the old abandoned house, knowing that it was rumored to be haunted. But there was something about the note that made her feel like she had no choice but to go. She wrapped a scarf around her head and pulled on her coat, trying to calm her nerves as she made her way back out into the storm. The old abandoned house was a good mile away, and she knew it would be a long and treacherous walk. But she didn't have a car, and there was no way she was calling a cab to take her to a haunted house in the middle of the night. As she approached the house, she could see that it was even more decrepit and abandoned than she had remembered. The windows were shattered, the roof was caved in, and the door hung off its hinges. She hesitated for a moment, wondering if she had made a mistake. But then she heard the voice again, urging her forward. She pushed open the door, trying not to think about all the creepy crawlies that might be lurking inside. The house was dark and musty, the air thick with the smell of decay. She could barely make out the shapes of the furniture, covered in layers of dust and cobwebs. As she made her way through the house, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. She heard strange noises and glimpsed movement out of the corner of her eye, but whenever she turned to look, there was nothing there. Finally, she reached the back room, where the voice had told her to go. The room was small and cramped, the walls lined with shelves filled with old books and artifacts. In the center of the room stood a figure, shrouded in darkness.